back to my channel. Hope you're all doing well out there. And today we're going to head into the swamps for some research and B-movie creature mayhem. All right, but before we get into it, do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. Join me here, I would appreciate that. Today we're going to head back to 82 for Swamp Thing, based on the DC Comics. Written and directed by one Wes Craven. Wes Craven was coming off of, he'd already done Last House on the Left back in the early 70s. He'd done The Hills Have Eyes and a few other things. But he'd just done Deadly Blessing in 81, and that movie really didn't do much of anything. So he got approached to do this film, and he came on board, thought it was a good opportunity, and he wrote the script and directed it. And in this film, we got Ray Wise as Dr. Alec Holland. We got Adrienne Barbeau as Alice Cable. She is new to this project. We see her right in the beginning of the film coming into the swamp, and it's her first day here at this facility in the middle of nowhere. Louis Jordana plays Arcane, our main villain here. David Hess, Wes Craven reteaming with David Hess from The Last House on the Left, that plays Ferret. And Dick Durock plays Swamp Thing himself once he transforms. And he would actually come back to play Swamp Thing in the sequel, The Return to Swamp Thing in 89. And then USA had a series called Swamp Thing from 1990 to 1993. And he came back and played Swamp Thing in the series as well. So he was all in on this character. He came back and played it many times over the years. As I said, in this film, right at the beginning of the film, we see Cable, Alice Cable, Adrienne Barbeau's character, coming into the swamp, getting to this facility. It's this old rundown church. It's what it looks like. And there's shacks there, like cabins there for them to stay in. There's a lot of military presence, guys with machine guns protecting the place. And she meets Dr. Alec Holland down in the laboratory. And he's doing research with plant life, different kinds of genetic research with plant life. Him and his sister are running this lab. And pretty soon, Arcane and his goons, led by David Hess, show up, kill everybody. They think they kill Dr. Holland, and he runs into the swamp on fire, and you see all these different explosions out of the water and all these different colors. And he's transforming into Swamp Thing, as we find out soon. And they take Alice hostage. They try to kill her in the swamp. And Swamp Thing shows up, saves her by taking out some of the Arcane's goons and rescuing Adrienne Barbeau's character. And pretty much after that, it's just Arcane's whole plot is to get Dr. Holland's notebooks and any research he did, because he wants to be the one to use this to see if it will transform people. And they kind of have this weird party where all these people are here for a dinner party, and the one guy who's on Arcane's squad of like hitmen is sitting there. Actually, he's the only one that has semi of a conscience. One minute he's shooting bullets at people, and next minute he's having like a crisis of faith about his thoughts on what's going on here. And he drinks this, what he thinks is wine, and Arcane happens to tell him, "You're the first one to be experimented on." And he turns into this little, like, I don't know, like 4 foot tall kind of donkey kind of creature. I don't know if that's exactly what he is, but that's what he looks like, but he talks and all that. And then what happens is Arcane takes the potion and he turns into this kind of pig werewolf beast. And then we have our final battle between Swamp Thing and this Arcane in the swamp, and Swamp Thing takes him out, and we have a happy ending. Swamp Thing goes out in the swamp. Adrienne Barbeau's character gets to go home, and that is the end of the film. What to like about this film? Well, it's definitely a cheesy B movie. I mean, they only had $3 million here to film this movie, and I remember reading interviews with Wes Craven over the years about this film. This is a film I used to watch a lot on TV as a kid. I've even seen the sequel probably more, The Return to Swamp Thing with Heather Locklear, because USA and, you know, that they used to play that a lot. So I've probably seen the sequel more than I've seen this one, but I have seen this quite a bit over the years when I was younger. And I watched this on Friday night with my buddy Dale _ from the Bat and Spider podcast. Please go over to Apple, iTunes, or Spotify and subscribe to those guys. Those guys are awesome. Me and Dale have a movie night once a month where we watch 3 movies. This was the first one we watched. We just got the 4K from MVD Rewind Collection. And the transfer is spectacular, but we're going to talk about why it wasn't so spectacular on the effects in this film. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Wes Craven was never happy with this production. It was definitely, he was getting a lot of slack about cutting back on scenes. They cut out a bunch of chase scenes in this film because they wanted to save money. There was money cut from the effects budget, and you can tell. We'll talk about that in a second. But overall, I think Adrienne Barbeau is really good here. Ray Wise is good here when he is on screen, although he is not in the Swamp Thing suit. Originally, Wes Craven wanted Ray Wise to be in the suit, but he just couldn't perform in it. It was tough to perform in, so that's why they brought Dick Durek in to be in the suit. And they would film it both ways, once with Dick Durek in the suit, one with Ray Wise in the suit. And the one Ray Wise footage wasn't working out, so they just went with all Dick Durek stuff. There's some cool effects moments, but you could tell they didn't have enough money to truly pull some of this stuff off, which is a shame. This definitely has some B cheesy movie charm to it. And, you know, you could tell there's somebody who knows what he's doing, Wes Craven behind the camera, just with a very low budget for what they were trying to pull off. The score was done by Harry Manfredini of Friday the 13th fame. And if you listen closely, Harry was definitely pulling some themes from Friday the 13th into this film. Some of the score just sounds right out of Friday the 13th. I even looked at Dale and I'm like, is that not the Friday the 13th score I'm hearing right now? And sure enough, it was. It sounded exactly like it. I mean, there was no mistaking it, definitely. The story's good. This is just one of those movies where, looking back on it now, I hadn't seen this in probably 20 years. The ideas were there, but the execution, the money to do it was not. And sadly, with the 4K, which is spectacular, the 4K restoration they did on this looks amazing. We watched the European cut, or the uncut version of this. It has the nudity in it, which Adrienne Barbeau is topless in the movie, and they linger on the shot absurdly long. They do. I mean, they really, the camera just sits there for, usually when there is a topless shot, the camera doesn't just sit there for a long period of time. You see it, a couple seconds, gone. It just lingers for at least 10, maybe even 15 seconds. I was surprised because I never saw a European cut before. This was filmed actually in the swamps down in South Carolina. So it must have been a miserable shoot, man. It must have been. Especially for Dick Durek and that. The idea for A Nightmare on Elm Street came to Wes Craven while he was doing the production on this film. And he said in an interview that was one of the good things that came out of the production, because he was never happy with this production. Again, Craven was forced to scrap scenes. There was a whole underwater cavern or tunnel scene that was supposed to take place, like this action scene, and he had to cut all that because they were trying to slash the budget. Wes Craven had a lot of things against him on this film, unfortunately. And to get back to the 4K restoration, which is amazing, it looks great. It's the best this film's ever looked by far. It's probably the best it's ever gonna look. The suit on Swamp Thing in 4K, you can see all the cracks in it. Now, like I said, the effects budget was cut, but in 4K resolution and the clarity, you can see where the headpiece is on some moments when Swamp Thing's moving. You can see how rubbery it looks. Like, it doesn't looks dry almost. It doesn't look the best in 4K. The film looks great. The effects do not. And Arcane's effect at the end is not very good. It's bad. It is very bad. This is just one of those movies where they didn't have enough money to pull this off. Now, when I was a kid, I thought this was great. And I still had fun with it Friday night watching it again. But looking back on it now and watching it with 4K clarity, this is probably one of those films that should not have been in 4K. Like, you should be watching this on DVD quality. But because you can see a lot of the cracks in the effects. It still has its B-movie charms, though. It really does. I had a good time with it. It's just at the end of the day, looking back on it now, this is not it's not a great film. It doesn't hold up that well. But I still had a good time with it. So at the end of the day, I would give Swamp Thing a 6.5 out of 10. I had a good enough time with it. It's the first time I've seen it in 20 years. It looks great in that 4K. If you're interested, the 4K looks amazing. But yeah, 6.5 out of 10 for Swamp Thing. Have you ever seen this one? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Share this video. I would appreciate that. I'll be back soon with a review for Wes Craven's Cursed. But until next time, bye.